more than the presentation, no?
Yeah, just
Either way.
talk about the concept. It's for pregame. That's good. So Nick,
All right, Nick.
what are your feelings about this concept of having a Primerica pension? What's that? What's that? That's an interesting phrase.
Look at you.
So, I mean, when you build a business and you get the residual income, I mean, I was a school teacher prior to this, right? So I was going to work 40 years for approximately 40 to 50 grand a year, starting at 65 years old or 60 years old as a pension. And, you know, the great thing about a Primerica pension, as you build a business, eventually a lot of it's residual, but you don't have to wait till you're 60 or 65 to collect your residual income. You get to collect it the entire way along the way. You know, and I just look at, I mean, so many of your businesses are so much bigger than mine, but that residual report that we get from Primerica, we just crossed 400,000 in residual income. And that's just, I would have never made that as a teacher. I'm a 47-year-old, I'll call myself a boozneck, like you had mentioned in New Hampshire. There's barely over 1 million people here. And that's a residual income that you can grow it as high as you want, as fast as you want. You could slow it down. You just got to take care of people, get more office help if necessary. But you're collecting it the entire time. And there's no a forced retirement. You don't have to meet a certain age requirement. And you just keep building and building and building. And then for me, you know, with the management account platform and the SMAs, it's just changed our life tremendously. Because in the last 3 years, we've gone from 60 to 80 grand residual to 400,000. And that's why, you know, I've done that talk before, but we're 6 years away from $1 million in residual income if we just keep doing 10 million a year.
Nick, you were referring to under special reports because you and I have had this conversation privately in the past, but our RVPs are given this special report that they can pull up where their business is at. And in there is the actual recurring income that your code number is generating, which I think that's a tremendous thing. But I think our trail commissions, as we're talking about securities and investments, our trail commissions on our managed accounts is very similar to Canadians in building their assets under management. I know, Arlie, that's something that you've talked a lot about, is just building those assets up that gives you that.
We always talk about it because we recruit to it all the time. I mean, like Nick was saying, a pension. I mean, our trailer fee income right now has been increased with our new funds, but we're sitting at about $150,000 a month, very close to $150,000 a month in renewal income. And we never really focused on it as much, but we told everybody that, you know, regardless what you make, after 10 years, you will have $1 set aside in recurring income coming in to what you've been paid. So the company will pay you about 50% of what you're going to get paid because of recurring income and the way that works. And then another equal amount is set up as ownership if you sold your business. So you've got the trailer fee that's an annuity for the rest of your life. You've got the ownership value. And if you can't recruit to that, then you can't recruit to anything. I mean, you could recruit to bonus checks and getting really rich with bonus checks, I guess, but you better keep that old treadmill flying and you better crank it up a little all the time. But ultimately you could do that too. You don't have to be one-sided in anything. You can pick up those huge bonuses. You can pick up those huge trailers and you can get that ownership and you kick all of those in and together. I mean, it is so far beyond most people's thinking. And we've lived it. We've lived it for the 35 years we've been here. And from day one, thank goodness to our upline, we decided to build massive passive recurring income. And it's not that passive. I mean, we keep growing it. We keep adding to it. We'll do, 40, 50 million a month. And that adds on to what's there. And the redemptions don't seem to hurt it. And so it just gets better and better and better. I don't think you can possibly explain it to newer people. You got to take them by the hand, get them licensed, get them in the field, and talk to them. I mean, everybody wants our lifestyle now, but nobody wanted it when we had to go out and do 10, 15, 20 appointments, you know, a week sometimes just to keep this business rocking and have most people quit and have most people not get, you know, educated and get good at the skill set. But that's life. That's this business. And you got to factor all that in and just keep going when it looks like it's impossible. I mean, one time we lost 18 RVPs in one crack, but we just kept rebuilding and promoting and rebuilding and promoting. And today, I mean, we've got the most incredible organization of people and the most incredible pile of money that pays us monthly, and ownership. I mean, it's off the charts.
Back when I was first building my base shop, that it's always a run and gun. You're always looking for your next transaction. Today, it's a different ball game. I know my daughter, you know, she's a regional leader in our base shop, and she's got about 5 million of AUM personally, but she's got that recurring income of about $1,000 a month. I got another part-time guy. He's part-time. He's got about 1,000 a month coming in. I got another retired Kalamazoo public safety officer. He's got about $2,000 coming in, you know, every month that is recurring. He's got 55 clients. I think his average client size is about 150. He's got 55 clients that pays him $2,000 a month. I mean, when you think about that as a part-time and a part-time contract that you can build her, that's just tremendous. Scott, what are your thoughts on this?
What are my thoughts on the fact that Arlie just said he gets 150,000 a month passively? Let me think for a minute. My God, geez, Arlie, my goodness. I'm gonna get my securities license now. That fires me up.
Yeah, get a 65 too.
I'll get that one also if I have to. I think that we have two, you know, Nick talked about, I'm guessing Nick's passive income is largely on a personal basis, although I know he's got people on his team and he's got some people in his hierarchy. Arlie has done what he's done. You know, I mean, he's got a big, huge hierarchy in Canada and the whole thing. I think people should take from this that whether you're overriding assets under management or asses under management, it's a good idea to get both. And I think that there's no reason to just do one while you're producing and you're learning and you're figuring out how the business works. Scale it up by teaching other people. Bring other people in, whether it's the wall of wealth idea, whatever the heck it is, but we should be building securities licensed teams that will be the second residual for all of us as we go, you know? So that's my thoughts. I got to go study for my securities license now. I'll see you later.
That's fantastic. I was going to call on Mike, but Doug raised his hand. So we want to have Doug get Doug in on this conversation.
Well, I just looked up that special report just for fun. And our residual income every year, or at the moment, is 780,000 last year. And so, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I've had a very interesting experience in the last 24 hours here, and this goes to the heart and soul of everything that we are, everything that we do. And 9 years ago, I wrote a policy on a single mother who was pregnant, ready to have a baby, and her grandfather is paying for the policy because the mother is a wreck. And so here's $50 a month for $300,000. So the grandfather called me. He's getting very old now, and he's wondering about it. And so I ran a quick quote using the current RACI product that we have, and I can start another 20-year term with this lady who's now 30 for half the premium, half. It was $50, now it's $25 starting. And to me, that is like earth shattering. Why is that? Well, because we have $25 to save. And that $25 needs to go into a mutual fund for this young lady. And this is the power of what we do right now. This is like absolutely stunning. Well, say, oh yeah, well, if you convert her, you're not going to make any money. What are you talking about? And sure, we won't be getting paid any advance if we replace the current existing policy with a new one. But now we are on our way to a client for life, 30 years old, where she's going to be in another 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And that's our thinking. That's the heart and soul of who we are, what we do. And so even if it means replacing our own coverage with the racier product that we have. And so I just couldn't believe these prices. It's stunning to me. And
Ladies
then
especially.
at the same time, my cousin's laying some tile here for me in the addition we're putting on our house. Young guy, he's 30. And so I start working on him and saying, hey, and so I give him quotes left, right, and center. I said, just let me know how we're doing with that. And he can't close his mouth now. Just can't close his mouth. Why? Because of what he's got and what we can do. It's stunning. And so yeah. And you recruit, what do you recruit to? You recruit to something that's extremely powerful for the individual. And this is what we've always done. We were believers in, starting people. We all started with putting the baby bonus away. And now we have, $2 billion under management. Why? Because of this principles never change, doing what's right for people. And that's how you build this amazing residual over time.
Oh, Doug, I love seeing the passion that you have, just like you say, talking to whoever. And this is really what separates the people that build something, the people that don't, is they have passion about what they do and how they feel about what they do for people, and just sharing it, whether it's protecting them or doing a $25 a month PAC, it all has an impact. And so anyway, well, Mike, we appreciate your contribution to this conversation, and we're going to go ahead and turn the floor over to our host today. Nobody better to host today than one of the next $1 million earners in the company from the great state of Wisconsin, the fabulous Kurt Pfuhl. Take it away, Kurt.
All right. Well, hey, thank you. I don't know if I can live up to all that, but we're going to give it our best here today. I'm excited to get a chance to share with you. I will let you know right up front, it's going to be fundamentals, generic, boring fundamentals that make you a millionaire. Okay. So it's not going to be anything too exciting, but it's going to be block and tackle, block and tackle, block and tackle. So let's go ahead and get started. And I just want to share a couple thoughts as I'm getting started with you guys. Okay. As we go into this information, you guys can see MPI on the screen. Okay, good. Okay. As we go into this information, I want you to remember this. Okay. I want you to take the best and leave the rest. And if I say something that contradicts how you currently are doing things, just realize I don't know anything and follow the direction of how you're currently doing stuff. Okay. So I'm going to give you my opinions and my thoughts. Doesn't mean they're what you have to do, but it's my belief level. So my fundamental belief levels. So let's go ahead and dig into this and get going here. Okay. So I know none of you have ever seen this slide before. Okay. Stick to fundamentals, stick to basics. Don't try to look cool. We want to impress people with facts, logic, history. People are nervous. People are scared. People are wondering what to do next. Oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. Our job is to teach them it's not. So how do you stay positive in the market we're in right now? Well, to me, that's easy. It's history and logic. It's very easy. Okay. I do not make any emotional decisions for my clients. I don't make any emotional decisions with my personal money. I make logical decisions because history and logic is how we're going to win. So let's start out going over this. Okay. Let's talk about this. One of the ways that I talk, and I'm going to go through a bunch of different sides of how I talk with people. So I may ask some of you to kind of interact a little bit. So it's kind of like a role play, whatever. But so here's the first one. This is a slide that I use with clients, right? Listen, over the last 86 years, the stock market has been positive 76% of the time and negative 24% of the time. Okay. The 76% of the time that it's positive, it averages 19.7% per year. The 24% of the time it's negative, it averages negative 12 a year. I personally would take 76% positive 19, okay, versus 24% negative 12. I will take that bet. Now, here's a conversation I'll have with a client, okay? So Dave Harms, I'm going to ask you to volunteer, sir. And I'm gonna share with you kind of how I would walk through this with the client, okay? So Dave comes in and he's a little nervous, right? So, hey, Dave, let me just share with you some history of the market, okay? Over the past 86 years, the stock market has been positive 76% of the time. It's been negative 24% of the time. So let me ask you a question, Dave. If you were going to Vegas to play the slot machines and you knew going in, you were going to jackpot on 76% of the pulls, but you were going to lose on 24% of the pulls, you're telling me you wouldn't play?
I would definitely keep pulling.
You would keep pulling, okay? So with the stock market, right, it's positive 76 and negative 24. If you do slots, why wouldn't you do a 86-year thing with the stock market? Doesn't that make sense to you? Why are you nervous at this point if you won't be nervous in Vegas? Now, we got to be careful of Vegas and slots and stock market. Don't want to freak people out. But every single person says the same thing every time. No, I'd keep playing. Absolutely. Okay. So, Dave, let's take it a step further, okay? Let's look. The market has only been negative 18 5 times in the past 86 years, okay? 5 times, last year being the 5th year. Let's analyze what happens after those negative years, okay? In 2022, the market had a terrible year. In 2002. In 2003, it returns 28% the following year, okay? In 2008, the market had a terrible year. In 2009, it returns 26. In 1974, the market had a big loss year. In 1975, it returns 37. In 1937, the market has a terrible year. In 1938, it returns 30. Dave, the average rate of return the following year after a negative 18% year is 30%. Now, last year, we had the 5th one of those. What's 2023 going to do? I don't know. But based upon history, it looks more positive than negative to me. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
So, Dave, most people right now would be saying, listen, with something like that happening, I need to increase my monthly investments or doing a lump sum or both. What's better for you, Dave? Increase your monthly, lump sum, or both?
Both, please.
And I looked for more money. He comes in ready to jump off the building. He leaves with an increased pack or a lump sum because logically it makes sense. Okay. Now, Dave, here's the last 20 years in our economy. Okay. Over the last 20 years, the stock market has been positive 80% of the time. Now, when you listen to the news or you pay attention to what's happening, does it seem like that to you?
No way.
No way. So see, negative sells. Nobody talks about positive. Okay. So John Templeton, okay, had made this statement: to buy when others are despondently selling and to sell when others are avidly buying requires the greatest fortitude and pays the greatest rewards. So Dave, you came in thinking you were a little nervous. Do you see what does Sir John Templeton tell you should be doing right now?
Buying.
You should be buying. So we wouldn't argue with an investment legend, would we?
No.
So should we increase our monthly? So I'm going to ask that question to clients throughout the time frame and look to increase our investment. Folks, you're going to be a hero if you do that. You're going to be a hero when the market recovers and they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Okay. Another article that we use, okay, is this article from the New York Times back in 2008. Okay. So, and I normally do this. I'm going to have a few different articles I'm going to use. I don't want to sit and read them to you. I'm going to hit a couple highlights. I thought about just letting you read them, but I'll give you a couple highlights out of them, right? So, Dave, this article back in 2008 was in the market when the market was in the middle of the greatest downturn since the Great Depression. Okay. It was called the Great Recession. Okay. And, the market had, gigantic losses. I want you to look. The opening line said the world's in a financial mess. Is that kind of how you feel right now?
It is.
Yeah, it kind of is, right? And Warren Buffett said he's buying American stocks. And he's talking about with his own personal money, okay? And the key I want you to get, Dave, is this last paragraph, okay? He said, a simple rule dictates my buying. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. And right now, right, everybody's scared. Look at the last sentence. He says most major companies will be setting new profit records in 5, 10, and 20 years. Now, in the middle of the greatest downturn since 1930, did that seem like a reasonable comment to make when the world seemed to be falling apart? Did that seem reasonable?
Not at all.
Not at all, okay? As a matter of fact, the day before this article, the Dow Jones closed at 8,700 or 8,979.
Wow.
David's at 33,000 today. Was Warren Buffett right?
I guess so.
I guess so. So based upon history, should we be nervous or excited right now, according to Warren Buffett, Dave?
Excited.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me. My wife and I are. So, and if you saw, I would look for increased monthly pack or lump sum or both, right? Here's another article that we use. Okay. This is from Bob Meter, the CEO of Meter Investments. Okay. And this was on March 24th, 2000. Okay. He talks about all the things our country has been through and talks about how we always come out stronger. I let the client read the article, and then I say this. Now, Dave, the day before, March 23rd, the Dow closed at 18,591. Here we are 3 years later, nearly double that. Did Bob Meter seem correct?
He was.
So based upon history, should we be nervous or excited right now?
Excited.
Yeah, we should be excited, okay? Now, by the way, the day before, March 23rd, was the low for that market dive. That was the bottom the day before. So we said this a day after the market, just it was down like 30% in 20 days, okay? Wow. So here's another article that we'll use with clients. So again, I'm just kind of shotgunning for a little while here. These are different things because listen, if Dave comes in, and he's panicking, what he needs to see is, hey, my financial advisor is like, this is another day in the office. It's no big deal. What are you worried about? It's like, whatever. Okay. That's what he needs to see. If he sees me going, you're worried? Okay. That's not a good thing. Okay. I want him to know, hey, it's all good. And I tell people many times, right now, Dave's obviously much younger than me, but I tell people many times, hey, listen, Dave, my wife and I, we're both 60. And I want you to know this. I'm not telling you what to do. But we are completely wide open aggressive right now with our own personal assets, like wide open aggressive. Okay. So the information I'm sharing with you isn't just for you to hear. It's what I'm actually doing. And I tell people that. Okay. Because that's also like, well, I mean, that means if I go down, Kurt's burning in flames. Okay. So, I mean, I tell people things like that. So, hey, Dave, people are worried, they see things like that. If he comes in with that, hey, listen, here's the last 50 years in our economy. This is based upon end of 2021. This is the newest brochure. So I'm telling you that, okay, here's the last 50 years in our economy, right? I know people are like worried, they think things are different. Dave, I don't really think they are. Here's why. Okay. If we go back to 1972 at the start of the article, right? We had the largest U.S. budget deficit in history. And you know what people were saying at that time? We've never seen anything like this before. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what's happening, okay? A few short years later, right? 1974, the Dow closes at the lowest price in 10 years, okay? You know what people are saying at that time, Dave? We've never seen anything like this before, okay? In 1987, the market goes down 22.6% in one calendar day. That'd be like going down 8,500 points in one day today, Dave. At that time, you know what people were saying? Geez, I've never seen anything like this before, okay? We can go on and on and on and on through all these different historic times. The point I want to make to you is this, Dave. When you're in the middle of something, it seems like that's all you can see. Let me give you an example. Dave, do you remember 9/11?
Yes.
Do you remember what you were doing?
Yes.
And for the next few weeks/months. Wasn't that kind of what you could think about? You kind of thought about that a lot?
Yeah,
Kind of is that, do you think about it every day today?
not really ever.
Yeah, not really ever. And that doesn't mean neither one of us are cold. It just means when you're in the middle of it, that's all you can think about. But years later, you follow what I'm saying, Dave?
That's good.
So listen, through all that stuff, the market averaged over 11% a year over that 50 years, Dave, with all that stuff going on. Listen, if the next 50 years are as bad as the last 50 years, would you be happy with a return similar to that?
I would.
Okay, great. So that's another thing. Okay, now I got a couple more articles I'm going to show you, then we're going to go to some other stuff. Okay, but these are all things that if you talk to people logically, it's like they leave going, hey, I'm pumped up. This is great. Okay, so here's another one, right? So Dave, this word recession's hanging around. Okay, so let me share something with you. The United States has been in 13 recessions since World War II. Okay. The average post-World War II recession lasts about 10 months, while the average growth time expansion lasts about 57 months. Would you take 57 good months? Would you endure 10 bad to take 57 good, Dave?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I mean, I would, right? I mean, it would make sense to me, right? Think, you know, and if Dave's a sports guy, which he is, I'd go, listen, Dave, let's use baseball as an example. 10 months down, 57 months up, that's 67 months. Listen, if you went up to bat 67 times and got 57 hits, would you be a pretty good baseball player?
Really good.
Yeah, you would be like the best ever, like who's Ty Cobb? I mean, you'd be everybody would take that. So we've had recessions before. We're going to have recessions again. It's not brand new. It's not like it's never happened before. So I mean, I'm comfortable. My wife and I are super aggressive, but I have that conversation again. Here's another one. Okay. This is, you can see October of 2022, right? We had a midterm election last year in the United States, right? So listen, here's what's interesting. Go back to 1962. There has never been a loss in the following 12 months after a midterm election. That does not guarantee now. But that's like, well, gosh, that's 60 years. Okay. As a matter of fact, look, the average return's over 16%. During the same time frame when there's not a midterm, it's only 6%. Does that guarantee the market's going up? No, but we got several statistics saying things look pretty reasonable. So, Dave, let me ask you this. Do you feel better than when you came in? Is this making sense to you? Are you comfortable with what I'm saying?
Definitely. Thanks for walking through this.
And I will ask questions like that to people throughout my time I'm talking to them. So it's not like I'm Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. They can't even hear me. Okay. I will ask questions like that to make sure, are they on the same page? Is it okay? And commonly, oh yeah, I feel better. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I came in or whatever the case may be. Okay. Now, this one just came out. This might be my favorite article that I'm going to use of all time for a while. Okay. This just came out March 30th. Okay. Warren Buffett. Hey, a bull is coming. A bull is coming. Okay. And he talks about what you do right now is really important. Okay. 83% of US adults are worried about inflation and so forth. They're worried about that. So look what he says to do. Okay. You can do it. Look what he says to do. Number one, don't get hung up on short-term market movements. Don't get hung up on it. I'm going to have clients sit and read this. I have them read it when they're sitting at my desk, okay? But I'm just going to talk to you about a couple things, right? So back in 2008, now I may not have used the prior article already. Okay, I just actually got this a couple days ago, this article. Here's what he said at the height of the Great Recession. He said, I can't predict short-term movements of the stock market. I haven't the faintest idea whether stocks will go higher or lower next month or next year. But the market will likely move higher, percent substantially so, well before people feel good. If you wait for the robin, spring's already over. Okay? He says it's not easy to watch it drop in value, but it's important to keep a long-term outlook. The market will recover. And the best thing you can do is ride out the storm. Dave, he didn't say the second best thing, or you should consider it. What did he say? Right? Read that last sentence for me, Dave.
The market will recover eventually, and the best thing you can do right now is ride out the storm.
What does that tell you should be doing, Dave?
Ride out the storm.
Yeah, this is Warren Buffett. This isn't like Jim Bob, okay? Now, the second thing he says to do is keep investing during the slumps, okay? He says it might be the best time to buy ever. Are we at an all-time high right now, Dave?
No.
No. So he says when the things are down or things are struggling, it's like the best time to buy. Again, he didn't say it's a good thing. It's the best time. And then I've already used this article, so I may take another piece out I had earlier, but that's the same thing about be fearful and others are greedy, greedy and others fearful. And the third thing he said, Dave, is focus on quality companies. Okay, let's look at your portfolio, and I'll show him a few of the companies in his portfolio. Johnson & Johnson and a whole bunch of big giant company names, okay? So Dave, do those seem like long-term quality companies to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says it's not easy, okay? But you can survive this downturn. You'll generate wealth that will last for a lifetime. Is that important to you?
Yes.
So based on what Warren Buffett is telling us, what should we be doing right now?
Put more money in.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Were you thinking a lump sum, monthly, or both? Okay. So asking the client questions and let the client tell you. If I tell Dave to do something, I'm the sales guy. It can't be true. I'm just trying to sell him. But if it comes out of his mouth, it has to be true because he said it. He believes it when he says it. He may or may not believe it when I say it. Okay. Another quick article, then we'll get past some of this stuff. Okay. Another article, March 31st, about the new bull market is starting, okay? And he gives some points, but on the bottom, he says this: 2 consecutive quarters of gain validate the start of a bull market. We're 6 months into it, okay? And the best is yet to come. He's saying 20+% this year. Dave, none of these prove we're going up by 20 or 30 or anything, none of them. But there's a lot of stuff that says we should be happy and stay in place. Are you comfortable with that thought process, Dave?
Now I am, yeah.
Yeah. And then we might, whatever we're going to talk about next, but those are things I would go over with the client when they're nervous and their heart's pounding to help them like, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Now I'm going to go to some other stuff that we use sometimes, not always, sometimes. Okay. And I'm going to pick Michelle now. Okay. Michelle just refriended me on Facebook. Somebody hacked my Facebook and took control of it. And I haven't been on it for a couple of weeks because like, I can't get on it. It's like unbelievable. So anyway, no, we aren't giving away free money. Like my Facebook said, I didn't post that, by the way, obviously. Okay. But anyway, crazy. So, hey, Michelle, good morning. All right. So some other things that I would talk to clients about if they're nervous, and you don't shotgun them with all these things, right? They'll leave with their eyes crossed. Okay. But so, you know, she's thinking like, is it a good time, bad time? The market's been going up. I think it's going to go down again. Should I wait? Okay. Well, Michelle, let's take a look. Okay. Let's analyze some times history. This is 1987. Okay. The market peaked on August 25th of 1987. That was a market high before the first single day in the history of the stock market. Now, if you would have invested at that worst time, at the end of the last year, right, you'd have got 8.88% net after all fees in the Clearbridge Appreciation Fund. You'd have had about $202,000. CDs have averaged about 3% in that same exact time frame. Today, you'd have $28,000 in the bank. You tell me, Michelle, this is the worst single day ever. And you still were okay. Okay. Are we at the highest ever in the history of the market right now, Michelle?
No.
No, not even close. Okay. Let's analyze another one. Maybe that was luck. Okay. This is 2000. Okay. The market peaked at March 24th of 2000. That was the all-time high before the worst decade in the history of the stock market. This is a pretty bad timing, right? If you'd have did that, the appreciation fund after fees has averaged about 6.8% since then net. You'd have about $45,000 today. CDs, meanwhile, have averaged about 2%. In the bank, you'd have about $15,000 today. Which one seems like a better idea, Michelle?
The appreciation fund.
Yeah, appreciation fund, right? Let's go a step deeper. Let's go to 2007, okay? 2007, right? 10/9 of 2007 was the market high before the greatest downturn since the Great Depression. Absolute bad time to invest. If you would have did that in the appreciation fund net after fees, you'd have got 7.77%, and 10,000 would have grown to 31,000. Banks have averaged about 1.5% during that same exact time frame. The bank would have $12,000 for you. Which one seems like it makes more sense, Michelle?
Not the bank.
Yeah, appreciation fund, right? Let's look at one last one, the last crazy one, right? Or the last really big one, right? February 19th, 2000 was the market high before the fastest declines in the history of the stock market. That would have been a pretty bad time to invest. If you would have did that, right? The appreciation fund net did about 4.3%. Your 10,000 would have grew to 11,200. Banks have averaged about 1% since then. Your 10,000 would have grew to 10,200. Based upon these four crazy times, historic times in our history of our stock market, did you see that the stock market won every single time?
Yes.
So should you be nervous or excited right now, Michelle?
Excited.
Exactly. And then I'm going to see if I can raise or pack or get a lump sum or whatever the case may be. Okay. So now I'm going to go. So all those we just went through, right, were different ways to calm people down. And these last four I just used, right, we picked like insane times in the stock market. We didn't pick like, oh, a little bump. No, they were big bumps and the market still won. Okay. So now I want to talk to you about how we teach people to be excited about down markets doing dollar cost averaging. Again, when I started, I said, no motivation today. It's like just logic and facts, talk people off the cliff, raise their investments. You'll be their hero long-term. So we're going to talk about systematic investing. Okay. Hey, Brent, could you help me out here, Brent?
Which Brent you wanting?
Brent Lanty, you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Yeah. Be clearer, Kurt. All right. So Brent. So Brent comes in, I'm talking to Brent and I'm going through the presentation and teaching him, right? Hey, Brent, now I want to talk to you about a concept called systematic investing or dollar cost averaging. Okay. Let's say you said, boy, Kurt, this is the greatest thing since ice cream. I'm going to pull the trigger. I got $100 a month. Let's go. And I go, hey, that's great, Brent. Listen, I've got two different investment options for you to do in this example. Number one is a rising market where you'd put in $100 each month and the market rapidly goes up. And at the end of the 6 months, you'd sell at an all-time high. Or you could pick a fluctuating market where you put in $100 a month every month for the next 6 months and you'd sell right back where you started again. If you can invest in either one of those two, Brent, what would you pick? Selling at the all-time high or right back where you started again?
Well, since I know anything about this and you're my advisor, I'm going to invest in a rising market.
Okay.
Teach me your ways.
It seems pretty basic, doesn't it? Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now, so I'm going to give you some teaching stories, and your stories are how you help people understand. Okay. So Brent, let me change a couple words in this sentence and ask the same question. Let's say you had a $100 a month budget to buy gas for your car, and the price of gas would rapidly go up for the next 6 months, or it would go way down and come back up to where it is today. Which would you pick for the price of gas, Brent?
Well, that I can relate to. I'd get the fluctuating market.
Why would you pick the fluctuating market?
Because you're buying it cheaper.
You're buying it cheaper. Okay. Or could we say you'd also get more gallons for your $100 a month? Would that be fair also?
100%.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to switch back to investing. You're going to get it just like this. In the rising market, when the price was going up, Brent, were you buying more or less gallons or more or less shares every month when the price went up?
You're buying less.
You were buying less. If we add all those up, you bought 42 shares times the eye candy, the $20, that's $840. Now, in the fluctuating market, when the price was going down, were you buying more or less gallons or more or less shares?
A lot more shares, more
Buying a
gallons.
lot more shares. If we add all those up, you buy 126 shares, only worth the $10, but that's $1,260. Now, if we started this slide over again and I said, Brent, which one would you want to invest in? What would you pick now?
Well, that's good teaching. I'm picking the fluctuating market now.
Okay, why the fluctuating market?
So I can buy more shares because down the road, they'll be worth more.
Exactly. So if he says something different, I'm going to steer it to more shares. Okay. So if he says, because I have more money, exactly. But the key to have more money, Brent, is you had more shares. Did you see that?
Yes.
So you may have heard the story as a boy. The boy with the most toys wins. I'm teaching you the man with the most shares wins. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yep.
And if I'm talking to a lady, the lady with the most toys wins, the lady with the most shares wins. Same thing. Okay. Now, if need be, there's a couple other stories that I would use to make sure it's driven home. Because folks, we want Brent to be like, I got it. I got it. I got it. I'm not nervous. So let me give you another idea, Brent, just to make sure it makes sense. Okay. Who buys the vehicles in your house? You or your wife?
We both do. So it's a group.
Okay, great. So let's say you're going like, hey, I'm thinking about a new truck. And she goes, yeah, we're thinking about it. So you're driving down the road and you go by the Chevy dealership and the Silverado of your dreams is up there. And you tell the story like this, the Silverado of your dreams. You look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the right color, the right rims. Your vehicle involuntarily pulls into the parking lot and you pull up to it and you're like wiping the edges of your mouth. This thing is like, wow. But it's $90,000. And you're going like, oh. And the salesman comes out and goes, hey, sir, can I help you? You go, man, this truck, but 90 G's. He goes, yeah, well, hopefully you're not uncomfortable with this, but we're actually letting it go for 55,000 right now. Would you be like, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'd rather wait till it goes back to 90. Would that be your response?
No, I would, and my wife would definitely like the 40% reduction in price.
We'd be writing the check, right? We'd be driving the truck. Go, okay, fantastic. So let me ask this, Brent. Who buys clothes in your house, you or your wife?
My wife.
Okay, yeah, my house too, right? Okay, so listen. So then I talked to his wife, okay, and you're going to be your wife right now, okay? So listen. So when you go shopping, is there ever a section of the store that you always check when you're buying clothes?
Oh, the sales rack, the big yellow red sign.
Oh,
Yeah,
the sales rack. Okay.
there you go.
Now, folks, every person says the sales rack or the clearance rack 100% of the time. So if clothes are 40% off, you're excited about that. Is that true, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's analyze this. If trucks are 40% off, we're excited. If clothes are 40% off, we're excited. Shouldn't we also be excited if the market's 40% off?
We certainly should be.
Yeah. So what we should do right now really is consider raising your monthly investment. You guys are currently doing $200 and actually know that with the new laws, right, you can now do 541.66 based upon your age. You're under 50. Okay. So would you like to go all the way there or part way there, Brent?
Let's go all the way there.
And that would be for your wife also?
That's correct.
Okay, fantastic. So a nervous client's now like, woohoo. So listen. And so here's how I kind of finalize this thought many times with people. Okay. So when you're at work, the next time the market goes on, your friends are going, oh my gosh, you're going to be going like, yeah, I hope it goes down more. This is awesome, isn't it? And they're going to look at you like you got three heads, Brent. But doesn't it make sense? You're excited when the market goes down. Does that make sense?
It does.
So we teach our clients to be jacked up when the market's down. And we don't have redemptions. People are going, is now the time I should put more money in? Yeah, now's the time you should put more money in, okay? So thank you, okay? So that's how we teach dollar cost averaging. The gas example always, and then sometimes trucks are closed, depends upon the scenario, okay? All right, oh my gosh, we're not going to get through anywhere near to what I got prepared. I guess that's good, okay? So listen, Hebrews 12:11, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful, kind of like investing through an ugly market, okay? But later on, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. You and I, as advisors, we're impacting people in a positive manner. We are helping them in a positive manner, and the clients are in love long-term with what you're doing. So stay logical, okay? All right, switch gears. Now, if I talk about stuff you don't agree with, it's all good. Do what you believe in, okay? I'm teaching you what I believe in. So I'm going to teach you why we teach clients not to invest internationally, okay? And every time you get a chance to go to a meeting, go, because you never know what you may see or learn, okay? So let's look. So I'm using indexes, okay? Indexes. So it's no company's version of anything. I'm using indexes, okay? So color coded, I'm using the S&P 500 for large cap, S&P 400 for mid cap, Russell 2000 for small cap, international is the MSCI EAFE, and bonds are the Barclays aggregate bond, okay? So sometimes if I'm teaching a client, right, I'll show them, I'll show them, if we look at during the decade of the 1980s, the market averaged 17.54% a year, large cap stocks. Small cap only 14.5. If we look at the decade of the 90s, large cap backed it up with another 10-year average of 18.2. If you look at that 20-year time frame, okay, the S&P 500 averaged 17.87% per year. The 86-year average is 10.4. So substantially overperformed. But look in the bottom when it says the market changed at Y2K. But what have large caps averaged since Y2K? 6.26. Okay. So we want to teach clients to have small, mid, and large in their portfolios. So let's look at some examples. Here's the last 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, and 15 years. You'll notice international never beat a US stock index during any one of those time frames. Here's the last 10, 5, 3, and 1. You'll notice in the last 1 year, international did beat 2 of the US indexes, but not all 3. It's the only time in the last 30 years, if you pick a time frame, 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, that internationals ever did well. You see many times internationals beat by bonds. So if I'm talking to a client, hey, Scott, could you turn your mic on, bud?
Yes, sir.
So I'm talking to a client, right? And I've just talked lightly about this, right? So I say, listen, based upon the last 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, 25, and 30 years, international has never beat all the US stock indexes, and it's only ever beat any of them once, and it didn't beat all of them. So my opinion is this, Scott, I don't want to invest in international stocks, as I say, 2 additional risks, currency exchange and less stable governments. So in my opinion, why would we take more risk to earn a lower rate of return? I would rather invest in the good old USA, not China and Venezuela. Does that make sense to you, Scott?
Yes.
And I know I'm not talking maybe to the Canadian folks as much right now, but every American goes, ooh, yeah, I'm ready. Okay. So then when I go through their stuff and they got international, it's like, okay. Now, Scott, not only that long term, let's look at the last 20 years. Okay. If we look at the last 20 years, the S&P 500 has been positive 75% of the time, and the EASC has been positive only 60% of the time. Would you rather have a chance to make money 75% of the time or 60% of the time?
75% of the time. Yep.
And not only that, the S&P has averaged 7 over that time frame, and the MSCI EASC has averaged 3.85. which of the two, would you rather 75% of the time average 7 or 60% of the time average 3.85?
Yeah, S&P.
Yeah. Now, I know that wasn't grammatically perfectly correct, but you talk to people how they're with you, okay? So let's switch gears and talk about Morningstar for a little bit. I like the Morningstar Portfolio Solutions. I love using that tool. So I'm going to share with you how we use that tool, okay? I have some managed account stuff too, but I don't know if we're going to get to it today. We'll see. So we like this tool, okay? So you can make like War and Peace, like a 4 zillion page manual for clients. Not good. We keep it very simple. The vast majority of the time, we show the cover page, portfolio comparison, okay? Those are the pages we show. Now, on the benchmarks, we choose to always use the S&P 500. If you don't click this, the Morningstar is going to build a portfolio to match what the client currently owns and then build a different portfolio to match what you're recommending. So the comparisons aren't to the same index. I want the comparisons to be to the same index. So it's just apples and apples, okay? So, okay, so let's look. Key things that we cover, okay? We cover beta. Now, this is how I teach our reps, okay? This is how I teach our reps, and then I'll use these with clients, okay? So beta is a measure of risk, okay? So a beta greater than 1 means your portfolio is more volatile than the S&P 500. A beta of less than 1 means your portfolio is less volatile than the S&P 500. Now, people like Scott are going, really, Kurt? I'm sure glad you pointed it out. I understand this is basic for a lot of you, but maybe for all of us it isn't basic. So I'm a fundamentals dude, okay? So beta, measure of risk. Second thing that we spend time talking about with people is alpha, okay? And I use the bottom sentence. Alpha is seen as a measure of value added or subtracted by a portfolio manager. So if it's value added or subtracted, Scott, would we want a high alpha or a low alpha?
High alpha.
Yeah, we like a high alpha, okay? And then we talk about something called Sharpe ratio. Sharpe ratio, I use the last sentence, reward per unit of risk. So would we like a high Sharpe ratio or a low Sharpe ratio?
High.
High, okay? So I'm going to give an example of an actual client, okay? This is a client that came in with a Thrivent annuity, simple IRA. And if you want to buy one of these, here's how you get a hold of Heather, the girl that sold it, okay, if you decide they're really good, all right? So this person had a Thrivent moderately aggressive portfolio worth about $29,000, okay? I put it into Portfolio Solutions. You can actually find that product, that Thrivent annuity, and that portfolio, and I did a side-by-side comparison, okay? So flexible premium, deferred variable annuity, simple IRA, $29,000. So here's what it looks like side by side. And then Scott, I'm going to get you involved here in a sec, okay? So this is how it looks like side by side, okay? So these are the key pages I would show the client, okay? So the first thing I would show them, now Scott, in your current portfolio, right, you've got about 14-15% of your money in non-US or international stocks. Do you remember we talked about international? Does that make you feel good or maybe questionable at this point?
Questionable.
Yeah, questionable at this point, right? Our portfolio has a little bit of international because some of the domestic funds may buy an international stock or two, a giant like a Sony or something like that. But, you know, based on what you learned, would you rather have more or less international in your portfolio?
I think less.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to recommend, okay? And then if we look at the style box, how your money is allocated, you actually have a nice allocated portfolio, no concentration anywhere. This shows how much is in large cap stocks, mid cap stocks, small cap stocks, and then bonds. The portfolio we recommend is also a good looking portfolio. It doesn't have any real concentration anymore, but we're gonna have a little bit more concentration in small cap stocks, okay? Here's our thought process. If we look at history, going into a downturn in the market, small and mid cap stocks usually get tired first and fall first, and large cap holds on longer. Coming out of a downturn, small and mid typically lead out. So we're going to lean that way just a hair right now. So let's take a look a little bit deeper, okay? Your current portfolio, Scott, is on the left. What we're recommending is on the right. So you currently have a beta. Scott, remember, beta was a measure of risk. This I'm talking to the client. And if a beta is less than 1, it's less volatile than the stock market. If it's more than 1, it's more volatile than the stock market. So your 3-year beta is 0.78. Ours is 0.83. Your 5-year beta is 0.78. Ours is 0.86. And your 10-year beta is 0.78 and ours is 0.85. So we're just a hair more aggressive. Just a hair, not a lot, just a hair, okay? If we look at your alpha, remember, was manager add or subtract value. Did we want a high alpha or a low alpha?
High.
High alpha. So your 3-year alpha is -3.9. Ours is positive 0.5. Your 5-year alpha is -4. We're -1.2. And your 10-year alpha is -3. We're -0.8. So based upon that, which portfolio looks like it's designed better, your current one or the one we're recommending?
The one you're recommending.
Yeah. And then we're going to look at Sharpe ratio. Remember, Sharpe ratio means reward per unit of risk. Did we want a high Sharpe ratio or a low Sharpe ratio, Scott?
We want a high.
Yeah. So your 3-year is 0.68. Ours is 0.99. Your 5-year is 0.3, ours is 0.51, and your 10-year is 0.51, and ours is 0.73. Which portfolio seems to be giving you more reward for the risk that you're taking? The current one you have or what we're recommending?
The one you're recommending.
Yeah. Let's look at actual returns now, okay? This is as of March 31st. This is updated once a month, okay? Your 3 years -8.6, we're -6.1. I'm sorry, your 1 year, excuse me, Scott, is -8, we're -6.1. Your 3-year is 10.3, we're 16.2. Your 5-year is 4.8, our 5-year is 8.5. And your 10-year is 6.3, and our 10-year is 9.6. Scott, based on what you're learning, where would you rather your money would be after our appointment today, where you currently are or where we're recommending?
Where you're recommending.
Great, let's get started, okay? Now, this page just shows this is the portfolios in and these are the funds that we used in this recommendation, okay? You're going to use the funds, whatever funds you like, okay? So we like to use this tool because we think it cleanly explains what's happening. You'll notice I didn't talk about rate of return until last. Because folks, if we sell by rate of return, we will die by rate of return at some point. Nobody is the best every year, okay? Nobody, okay? So we want to talk about a bunch of other concepts besides rate of return. Obviously, rate of return is important, right? How many of us sell term life insurance based upon price? I hope not, because you're going to find a cheaper one somewhere else. Cheaper does not equal better. Cheaper means it costs less, but it may cost more. So anyway, we spend time teaching that, okay? Now, we're going to switch gears again. We got no chance to get through this stuff, so maybe some other time, if it's good, we'll see, okay? So we're going to talk about overcoming objections for a couple minutes, okay?
Kurt, you muted yourself.
Go ahead.
We couldn't hear you.
What happened? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I feel like I'm in that phone commercial. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. So we're talking about overcoming objections for a few minutes, okay? And then we'll kind of wrap up and do some Q&A for a couple minutes. So Scott, I'm going to have you work with me again, if you don't mind. So overcoming objections, right? There's only 3, 4, 5 that you really got to know to be truthful, Okay, so I'm going to show you 5 different ones. And you can take pictures or do whatever if you think they're good. Okay, these are what we teach our reps. Okay, so the first thing to learn about overcoming objections is 55% of the message your clients receive is body language. Okay, 38% is tone of voice, and only 7 is actual content. Okay, so I want you to think a second, all of you. Please don't shuttle any names if you're in a room with people. All right. I want you to think back to school, and I want you to think of the teacher that was the most boring teacher. I mean, you're clinically dead 4 minutes into class, your eyes are rolled back and you're drooling, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. Did that person have good body language and good tone of voice? Did that teacher? The answer is probably not. They may have been, I'm thinking back to my high school career. Yeah, we rode dinosaurs to school, back then and all that kind of stuff, ate them and then walked home. When I got my 2 sons sitting right over here and they thought that was funny. Okay. So when we went to school, we had an amazing teacher, a servant. I mean, I know him today. He's a friend today, but oh my gosh, was he boring. He said, well, today class, we're going to talk about English. And it was like, oh my gosh, do something, burp, do anything to wake me up. Okay. So great man though, just not a great communicator. Now I want you to think of your, like the funnest class in high school, and it was probably a teacher that was animated and changed her tone of voice and walked around the room. And you want to be a better communicator to get 55 and 38 in your language. So, in your communication. So we teach people, right? We want our reps to memorize the scripts word for word. You're going, Kurt, you're telling me that's only 7%. Why should I memorize them? Because if you memorize them, you don't got to think about that. Everything is 55 and 38 in the conversation. That's why you memorize them. Okay. I probably never say them verbatim ever. You don't have to say them verbatim. But I don't want you to have to think about what you're supposed to say, okay? So the first one, okay, Scott says to me, okay, bring it to me, Scott.
Hang on, let me just
So
move
what's the minimum?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, Kurt, what's the minimum I can put away?
Well, Scott, most people get started with about $200 a month. Those that are more fortunate will maybe work with $300, $400, even $500 a month. While some on a little bit more limited or fixed budget, they may start with about 100. Where do you think you fit in?
I think maybe 300.
So you feel comfortable working with $300 per month?
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe a little tall.
Yeah, I think 300 would be good for us.
Okay, will that be for your wife also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for my wife also.
Okay, so listen, always ask that question. Maybe he's thinking him and his wife, but if I only ask for his, I may not get that. So always ask, okay? So great. Will the beginning, middle, or end of the month be better for you guys?
Middle of the month.
So is that the 10th, 15th, 20th? What's the middle for you?
Let's say the 15th.
Great, let's get started, okay? Boom. Now, if he challenges me again, the bottom script, if he challenges me again, what's the minimum? I go, hey, Scott, we try to work with people to the best of our abilities. What dollar figure were you thinking about?
Good, that's good. Well, I was thinking about maybe $100, let's say.
Okay, so do you feel comfortable working with 100?
I think so.
Do you think so, or are you confident 100's okay?
No, I think that would be good. Yeah, I'm confident.
Okay, so that'd be for you and your wife also?
Yes, for both of us.
Okay, great. Fortunately, our company will allow us to start with that. So is the beginning, middle, or end of the month better?
The middle is good.
So is that the 10th, 15th, 20th? What's the middle for you guys?
15th would be great.
Great, let's get started, okay? So that's that, okay? Now what about the Pack Plus, okay? Hey, Scott, your program can automatically come with something called our PAC Plus program. It's designed to help you avoid procrastination and fight inflation. 2 things that could affect you, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
So here's what's going to happen. Next December, you're going to get a notification asking if you'd like to raise your investment by just 10%. Now, Scott, it's an option, not a requirement, but you would like to see more in the future, wouldn't you?
I would.
Great. This is a simple and easy way to do it. And if you decide, hey, I need to stop it, just give me a buzz. Otherwise, we're all good. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And then you just go to the next thing, like it's a normal conversation. Now, we always start in January and we always do 10% annually. That's it. The reason we always start in January, everybody has the same 2 New Year's resolutions every year. I want to
Lose weight and
lose weight and save more money.
Save more money.
100% of the time. So they get it December, it's a perfect time. All right, you know what? We got to stop right here because I'm just looking at the clock going, dude, we're overtime bad. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm sorry about that. Maybe some other time we can cover some other stuff. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Scott.
Hey, great questions. That was awesome, bud. You are a clinic every time you come. Hey, Mark, we had a couple questions you wanted to go into, right, bud? Mark,
well,
Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle's she's picked some questions she's gonna ask and probably involve a few panelists, including Kurt.
Yeah, whoever has to highlight everybody is gonna have, like, you know, the Brady Bunch going on. So the question that seems to be dominating the chat today is questions about the devaluing of the dollar. You know, what's been in the news about the yen. What about clients who are calling terrified and wanting to completely liquidate to either A, cash, or B, gold? And my question was for folks who've been around a long time, who've seen this same type of panic over and over and over again, how you guys are not only just responding to clients, but how do you actually think about it?
All right, I'll start. Then you guys can clean up whatever I screw up, okay? So what happens is this, right? I think a lot of the times, so I'll use this with the client, right? You know, so a lot of times the clients, if we go back 30 years, right? I had a cell phone, but it was like, hello? It was about that big, okay? But we didn't have the internet. We all didn't have the cell phone, right? We all have the electronic income reducer right in front of us at all times, okay? Or the electronic income generator, depends upon to use it, okay? So we're animated right now. If anything happens, I mean, if somebody passes gas in Europe, you know, in about 3 minutes, okay? I mean, everything that happens is all over us constantly. So it's over and over and over and over again, the same thing. Pull back the emotion, look at logic, some of the slides I talked about. That's why, and we really don't have an issue with it, to be honest, but let's let the other guys say what they do.
It's funny, I actually had at a 10 o'clock appointment this morning with a client that had rolled up to me from a former rep, and she came in, and this was my first time meeting her face to face, and she brought a friend who was her trusted advisor, not an advisor in our field, just somebody she trusted that he seemed to be well read, and she's in her 60s, and she started off the meeting with, I think I want to take all of my money out and put it somewhere safe. And Dwayne thought that I should be thinking about gold. So it was interesting that question popped up because it happened this morning. And my first reaction, see, one of the things that we always got to provide people is perspective. They don't come into our meetings with any kind of, see, one of the things that Kurt did throughout his entire presentation today was he provided perspective on markets that go up and down, right? And so just providing that information can calm the waters. My first reaction to her is, we can do anything that you would like. We can liquidate this thing if you'd like. We can move it to cash, get it out of the market if that's what your desire is. So that's really easy, but I'm more interested in kind of finding out what your thought process is. And they both began, really, she said, Dwayne, why don't you take it? So he started talking about hard assets and having gold and sharing that. So my first reaction to her was, just so you know, if you liquidated this account, because it's an IRA, you're going to be taxed on every dollar of it. She says, even she's in her mid 60s. Even now, am I taxed? I said, yeah, you'll no longer get a penalty, but you're going to be taxed. And that $78,000 will be added to your taxable income. So that's probably going to cost you 20 to 25 grand in taxes with state and federal taxes right off the top. So that's the first thing. Well, the trusted advisor said, Well, then how do we pay the least amount of taxes? So her trusted advisor doesn't understand that basic thing. And so one of the things that we've got to do, I really believe this strongly, is we've got to remain calm in every one of these situations. And we just got to inform. I think it's really important that we keep people informed on the rules. And it's just do that. It often settles that. But then he talked about buying tangible, buying gold. So my position on gold is that gold and precious metals has always been looked at as a preservation play when it comes to investing. It's always been looked at as, it doesn't hurt to have a percentage of your overall portfolio in gold, but it's not something we recommend people do. And he says, well, I like gold. And I said, well, I like gold. There's nothing not to like about gold, but it's just, what's the best way about buying gold? I mean, you could take, do you have a need for any of this for income purposes? She said, no. And I said, if it's possible, you could start taking out distributions a little bit at a time and buying some gold if you want to do that. You'd minimize your tax liability. You'd be diversifying a little bit, but there's other ways that we also can do that. And I started sharing some of those slides that Kurt, you shared today. And when it was all said and done, they're not taking $1 out of the market. Okay. We are going to reorganize her portfolio a little bit. We're moving into her managed account, where there's a lot more flexibility. And anyway, it's a great question, and it's something you're going to encounter quite frequently. But people need to understand the ramifications of making such a bold statement, taking money out and moving it into something else. Scott, what's your thought on it?
I think you both, honestly, I think you both answered it tremendously. I mean, a lot of the questions that people get, they start talking about the petrodollar, and you, I think the question I saw had the yen on it, but it's really the yuan. It's going to start taking over, you know. And everybody is so good at magnifying, like, one thing they think they hear, they magnify it all the way to the end in seconds. So I'm concerned about the dollar. We've all just gone under. Like, there's a lot of room in between there, people. I mean, so you have to just kind of, like everybody said with the emotions, you got to take the emotions out of it. I've had people call me too and say, hey, I'm thinking about I should buy gold. And I'm like, well, how would you do that? Well, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. Okay, but I didn't tell you to buy gold. So, you know, it gets crazy as it goes. There's nothing wrong with having some gold, but, you know, gold isn't paying you dividends. You're not picking up the dry cleaning with gold. If we ever get into a bad scenario, like some people are magnifying in their head, and we're walking the streets like it's, you know, like it's Night of the Living Dead, and you're sitting there with your bullion walking the streets, to me, I think the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to be a big old target for somebody to knock off. I mean, it's just not practical in all that sense, other than maybe a small asset diversification thing, and people just magnify themselves crazy on it. So I hope that helps.
So I know we're getting towards the end here. So for those of you who want to get off, feel free. But for those of you who want to stay in this very timely conversation, I'm sure everybody wants to add more to that. So I know Nick had his hand up, and then Kurt will come back to you, and then I'll close this out. Nick, you're muted.
Nick, you're up, bud.
Okay, sorry about that. So first, Kurt, you did a phenomenal job today, and I hope what people got is that Kurt doesn't just share the information, but he tells a story. I said, so when you start to present, you tell that story, it's just a much more powerful way of just sharing that information. And I just wanted to make a comment, Mark, we all respond to these things differently. My way of normally doing it is asking them, first of all, you don't buy the market. You're buying individual companies within the market. The market's just giving you an idea of where everything's going as a whole. And so I'll just ask them, and I'll say, hey, Kurt, did you stop wearing deodorant the last recession we had?
No, I actually put more on. I sweat more.
Okay. Did you stop showering?
No, my wife won't let me.
No. Did you still go to the bathroom when you had to?
Yes, sir.
So those are all products that we use every day, and someone's going to make them in every market, and they're going to make a profit on it. Procter & Gamble is going to sell deodorant in a recession. If you own companies like that, in the long run, they get bigger. There's a big rule in business. Either you're growing or you're dying. So no matter how big these companies are, their goal is to continue to grow. And as you know, there's many other ways, but you're not buying the market. That's what I try to differentiate is people get up, Boston, they get out of bed, they walk down, they take a taxi across town, they go to work. They're not thinking the world's ending. They just keep doing that over and over again. If you listen to the news, you think the world's ending. But if you don't listen to the news, you just get up and do your thing, and you're buying products that are being sold to you at a profit.
Excellent point.
So true, so good.
So I'm going to just end with this final comment, and because I do have to jump off, and you guys can continue this conversation. But I did have a client who did this. So 2011, I had a client who was a computer programmer at Lockheed. He'd read several books on banking, thought he knew what he was doing, opened a self-directed IRA, and literally transferred half of his IRA and part of his 401k into physical gold and silver that sit in his basement. So he did that in 2011, and I did not, browbeat him or tell me he was stupid or anything like that. I just continued to do my job on my side. About 3 years ago, he did the same exact thing again with crypto. And so what was at the root of the issue was he was never following my advice. He was under saving. He was not saving enough. And so now here we are, and he's wanting to retire, and his spending is way too high for what has happened. And so getting back to what do you really own? Like everyone said, does gold produce a dividend? Can it produce your income? Can crypto do that? Yes, you can sell them when they're high and then put them in things that are going to continue to give you income. So that income's got to come from dividends, or it's got to come from interest, or it's got to come from cash. And so focus on your client's statements and showing them, just run their portfolio from January 1 of 2022 to December 31st and show them the capital gains, dividends, and interest. Do the same exact thing for 2021 and just teach your clients, this is, even though you may not be taking this is the income that's getting generated in your account based on those assets. And, it's really simple. You either own loans and you get principal and interest back, or you own companies, and those companies either pay you dividends or their growth, and they're going to give capital gains in high markets. So I'm going to jump off, but I hope the rest of you guys have an awesome day and continue this lively conversation.
That was a beautiful explanation, Michelle. Thank you for that. I think the last thing I'll mention on this whole subject is people just want a relationship with somebody that they can trust. And when you can have an honest conversation with them about some of the things that Kurt went through today, when you can share with them, she didn't know me this morning, my appointment, right? So now that we've had a chance to have a dialogue and we spent an hour together, everything is calmed down because she knows she has somebody that she can call and she can talk to and can talk her off the ledge. There was a lot more information given than a little bit of information that I gave during the meeting, but people are looking for that relationship, guys. I think that's the key behind the whole thing. So, but that was a tremendous meeting today, tremendous training. Eldon, is there anything else we got to do to close out?
I think Kurt had something, Mark, before you go. I think Kurt had something
go.
to add.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you one. I've got a bunch of stuff on gold, but here's one, right? Google Jeremy Siegel stocks for the long run. There's a chart, 1802 through 2021. Stocks net after inflation have returned 6.9. Okay. Gold net after inflation. There you go. Now I can't see my chart. Is returned 0.69. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, right in front of me. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. It's like, any other questions? Okay, I just wanted to show that. Great job.
That's beautiful. And that'll be posted on Telegram. Hey, people were wanting to know how they get on Telegram. When you registered for this meeting, you should get an invite to Telegram, Eldon. Is that right? A lot of people ask that question.
Yeah, there was. And what we can do is we can post another link out there, how to get your people on there. And so we can post that on the Telegram chat, what that direct link is, and get people registered. Not a problem.
And I know one of the things you got to pay attention to Telegram, guys, is that there's going to be a change to our MPI meeting. I think starting next week, we're going to be going to noon from this point forward, from 12 to 1 instead of 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. and there will be a new Zoom dial, and we ought to be able to migrate everybody over pretty seamlessly. We're attempting to do that, but that's the only other thing I think wanted to be that I was thinking about. Eldon, is that good info?
That's fantastic info. And I think it's great. Keep people up to date. And Telegram isn't the only way, but you should get it live in person here. So, man, Kurt, unbelievable stuff. You came absolutely prepared. I know you come that way to the table every day for your clients, and you keep it in a very practical way, and you practice it. And I think one of the things that we're trying to get AGF to do is actually deliver. They have the index chart, or the big picture chart, that goes back and has the graph of everything on it. It's used a lot in Canada, not so much down here. It's a Morningstar style chart. And anyway, I think that will tell a lot of the story that we want to tell. So AGF is telling us that they've got the rights, the digital and the printing rights for it. And it's just a matter of getting it in our hands, getting it out there. So anyway, that's one thing. Make sure that you join us for the CRM show on Tuesday mornings. Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about, what is carrying on, what's changing on that side of things?
I mean, it's one of the things that we're looking at doing is changing the name of CRM. So you can keep an eye out for that. But there's going to be sales and marketing tips, as well as up-to-date information on changes with the CRM. There's going to be a lot more changes with the CRM moving forward over the next few months. And so it's just important you stay in tune and stay up to date with stuff. It is recorded, so you can go back and watch it at any given time each week. So, but it's a fantastic collaborative effort, just like MPI is, with some tremendous field leaders.
And then following that immediately is the LFIC show. And that's all to do with all the tools and all the aspects of building and growing your business, I do believe. Any comments further on that one?
Is LFIC and MPI both going to be at 11 now, Eldon, or just one or the other?
MPI is going to be at noon, Kurt. So it's
I'm sorry, I'm thinking Central Time. I apologize.
Yeah.
Eastern Time.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
That's the thought, is to standardize both of those. And yes, so there is some name change stuff that's in the works, and simplify this time, and just make these meetings so that people know what they're coming to and the reason for it, so that you can attend a few different good meetings that are all solid for building your business. So I think this is the #1 show that I would recommend, is make sure definitely get your people on MPI. This is cornerstone of the way we look at our business anyway. So
beautiful.
Anyway, appreciate y'all jumping on. Fantastic show today, and look forward to doing it again this next week. And any comments or questions, just throw them on the Telegram chat. These slides and anything that gets presented on here, we do put it on the Telegram chat. So that's where it will show up. So have a fantastic rest of the week, and a fantastic weekend, and spend time with family, and keeping your priorities. So God bless. Take care.